Hello.
Hello, Trina, is that you?
It is me, yes.
Great. All right, I'm just about to start. There is no one else in attendance right now, so I'm sharing my screen. There's a few slides that I'm gonna be going through, and I'll ask you to share about the property in just a few minutes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, so good evening, everyone who's watching this after the fact. My name is Catherine, and I work with SEB Housing. This is the information session for the 18 affordable rental units that are going to be offered at the Asher in Ashland, Massachusetts. And the purpose of this session is to give a little bit of background information on the available apartments. I'm also going to cover the application, eligibility, and lottery processes, and what to expect after the lottery drawing itself. So if you have any questions for us, if you're watching this after the fact, you want to email us at info@sebhousing.com. That'll be the easiest way to get in touch with us. You can also give us a call at the 617 number that's on your screen right now. And just for some background information on who we are, so SEB Housing, excuse me, we are an off-site affordable housing consulting group. We're not the on-site management team for the building. We've been hired by the developer to market the affordable units, conduct this information session, collect and review applications for the lottery to determine an applicant's eligibility, and then ultimately we'll be running the lottery itself. So in the initial phases, we're your main point of contact rather than the management team during this time. Further along in the process, though, you'll be in touch with the on-site management team at the Asher, and they will take over as your main point of contact after the lottery. So the first step is to apply for the lottery. We will take a look at your application and determine whether or not you qualify for the affordable housing program based on what you self-report on your application. And we can answer any questions you have on the affordable housing program. We'll process your application and run the lottery. And then following the lottery, if your waiting list is high enough, you'll be put in your waiting list placement, I should say, your position on each waiting list. If it's high enough, you'll be put in contact with the leasing office and you'll be screened for lease eligibility at the property. That's separate from the screening that SEB Housing does. It might include credit, rental history check, reference checks, that sort of thing. And you'll reserve one of the affordable apartments if you're found to be lease eligible. And then after your lease eligibility, you'll be then referred back to SEB Housing to complete your program certification with us, which is the point in the process where you're supplying your supporting documentation like income, asset, tax documentation. And then once that screening is complete, if you're approved, you're able to sign your lease with the leasing office. So you're encouraged to submit your application early just to get the process started. As you can see on your screen here, the application deadline is April 23rd at 2 p.m. This is an online application, and the link is here. It's also on the first page of the application. It's on the website listing as well. So you want to go to that online application if you're able to. We encourage you to submit it online just because that's going to be the easiest way to, or the quickest way to apply and make sure that your application is received right away. When you do submit an online application, you're going to get an instantaneous confirmation email just confirming that your submission was received. And then a week or two later, you'll get a more personalized email from SEB Housing once we have actually reviewed your application. And if we have any questions for you, we'll email you those, and hopefully you're found eligible for the lottery. If for any reason submitting a paper application is not submitting an online application is not what you want to do, and you want to submit that paper application, you can submit it to us in one of several ways. You can attach it to an email or scan it to us. That's the most popular way. You can also fax it to us. The fax number is on the first page of the application, or you can drop it at our Dropbox at our office in Needham if you're in the area. So whichever one of those options works best for you. But like I said, you're encouraged to submit the lottery application online if you can. I should mention too that the application deadline is 2 p.m. on April 23rd, and the reason for that is because this online application link will not be live after 2 p.m. that day. So that is the cutoff for that. And then just one other thing before I turn it over to Trenda. You don't need to be a resident of Ashland to apply for this lottery. However, some of the affordable units will have local preference for residents of Ashland or applicants who work full-time in the town. So have a couple things on the screen now. Just the Asher does have a website, theasher.com, and then there's a little description here of the community. But I'm going to open it up now to Trenda Wallace, who's on the call as well, and she is from the management team over at the Asher.
Hi, how are you? So I would like to say some exciting news that the Asher website actually went live today. So on there, you'll see some photos of the clubhouse, some renderings in some up-and-coming pool pictures. Also, all of the floor plans are also available to be seen online. The apartments that are on the lottery are excluded from there, so they're saved for the lottery. Our community has a little bit of everything, so we're very excited about that. We do have covered parking available for $100 per month. That would be covered under the building. And then there's outside parking, which is free and unassigned. So you do have either option. We also do accept pets, of course, cats and dogs with a 2-pet limit. Cats are $50, dogs are $65. Obviously, ESA and service animals are excluded from that. We will have free bike storage as well. No additional storage outside the apartment, but the apartments are extremely large and do have a lot of storage inside of them. In addition to the rent, residents are also responsible for gas, water, electricity. There is no gas bills, actually. Electric, water, and sewer. That's all individually metered and individually billed to you. So you'll be able to see those types of things. Other than that, other than the rent and the utilities and any choice of rentable items such as parking, there would be no additional fees to that. We are not on site at this time for touring, but we will be on site prior to the lottery. So it should all be a perfect stream right into your move-ins, which we have one building opening up in May and one building opening up in June. Is there anybody on the line that has any questions?
There's nobody on the line now, but I actually have a question just because we do get this this question often, and anybody who's watching this or anybody who calls might have it. So you mentioned that before the lottery that you'd be on site potentially for tours. Do people need to make a appointment beforehand, or could they show up and ask for a tour if they were nearby?
It's best to make an appointment. So I know the lottery is the 23rd, and we might be on site about a week ahead of time. That's when furniture is going to be delivered, so we don't anticipate being on site before that. We can obviously set up for tours and meet you on site, so it's best at this time not to just show up because there's nobody there.
Great.
And we don't have an exact date. So touring, once available, you can actually make an appointment on our website when it's available, and you can do it 24 hours a day.
Great. That sounds awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So yeah, I'll go into just the rents and the eligibility process and application process. So you're welcome to stay, or obviously we'll be in touch if there's any questions that we're not sure on about the community or the units themselves.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Trenda.
All right. Bye.
All right, so the affordable units that are going to be available, there's 12 one-bedroom units. They will rent for $2,228. 2 of those one-bedroom apartments are mobility accessible, so they're considered to be disabled accessible. And there's 6 two-bedroom units that will rent for $2,428. And 3 of those two-bedroom units are mobility accessible. So as Trenda mentioned, there's modern finishes, there's in-unit laundry. She mentioned the parking situation as well. And again, that's electric heating, electric hot water, and electricity, plus water and sewer that the tenants will be responsible for. That is individually metered as well. So some of the amenities of the property are listed on our marketing materials, but just to call them out here, there's a saltwater pool, a fitness center, some outdoor spaces like a fire pit and lounge areas, a dog park, and some work from home spaces inside. So the market rate rents for the building are between about $2,400 to $2,900 for the 1 bedroom, and for the 2 bedrooms between $3,000 and $3,600. And so, these rents are discounted because the units are only going to be made available to households who qualify for the affordable housing program and have total annual income up to 80% of the area median income for Ashland. So in terms of eligibility for the affordable housing program, there's 4 eligibility requirements that are listed in that information packet if you've taken a look at that on our website. And the first is that households who apply for this lottery need to have incomes below the maximum income limit. So if you're a 1-person household, as you can see here, your income needs to be below, your total annual income needs to be below $91,200 in order to qualify for this program. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes as well in terms of how we calculate it. The second item to keep in mind for eligibility purposes is that household priority is going to be based on household composition. So, for example, if you're a 1-person household or a couple that shares a bedroom, you're generally considered to be a type 1 household. You're going to see the household types listed on your application. A type 1 household can apply for a 2-bedroom apartment, but larger type 2 households are going to be placed ahead of any type 1 household on the 2-bedroom waiting list. So just keep that in mind. The third eligibility criteria, households cannot own a home upon move-in. So if you're on the deed right now, you own a home, you would need to sell that property before being able to rent a apartment at the Asher. And then the fourth eligibility criteria for the affordable housing program doesn't come up very often, but applicants can't have financial interest in the development or be what's considered a related party. So what that means is if you work for the developer, if you work for the management team or the leasing office, you wouldn't be eligible for this opportunity. And so to circle back on income. So just a reminder that when you submit your lottery application, there's no verifying information that we need you to submit with your application. That will come later in the process. So you don't need to submit pay stubs or anything like that when you're submitting your application. But I just want to give you a heads up on how we're going to calculate income for this program. So we are required to count income as a projection over the next 12 months for all household members. So basically, we're trying to estimate what your income is going to be for the coming year. We have to count gross income, so the amount you make before taxes, although many of us are not taking home your full salary because of taxes and Social Security payments and all of that. How we calculate your income isn't one size fits all. There's some people who are working per diem or working seasonally, while others have that consistent paycheck. So depending on what your circumstances are, we may be asking for different information from you, more pay stubs if you are working per diem, or if you're self-employed, you may need to fill out a profit and loss statement so that we're able to take your business expenses into account. So in general, any income that you have been making in the last year, we're going to assume you are going to continue making it going forward, unless there's some sort of definitive documentation stating that you're no longer making that income source. So when you're filling out your application, just make sure that you're listing everything on there, not just wages, but if you have Social Security payments coming in for anyone in the household, unemployment, pensions, anything like that. There's no minimum income amount for the program, but as you can see on your screen, there is an approximate minimum income amount that the management team over at the Asher has set up. And that is equal to 2.5 times the monthly rent. And that's because, most management teams want to be sure that all tenants can afford the rent, regardless of whether or not they're renting a market rate apartment or an affordable apartment. So in general, households that are looking to rent a one-bedroom apartment, the approximate minimum income for those households is $66,000. And if you're looking to rent a two-bedroom apartment, your total household income needs to be about $72,000. So your income has to be below the maximum income limit, and it will be above the minimum income floor that was set here. Ultimately, it is the management team's decision as to whether or not, when they're screening you for lease eligibility, it's their decision as to whether or not you meet the minimum income floor. So an exception might be your income is slightly below this $66,000, but you have a lot of liquid assets. Maybe you have, a high balance in a bank account that you're able to access in order to pay rent. They may be able to approve households that have a slightly lower income than the minimum income, but you cannot be above this maximum income limit. Households with mobile vouchers like Section 8 or MRVP can disregard the minimum income amounts because they don't apply to you, since you will have your voucher agency picking up a portion of your rent. So you can disregard those minimum income amounts. There's no asset limit for affordable rental opportunities. So you might have a significant amount of assets. You might be retired, and that's fine. We do still need to ask for your income, your asset information though. So bank statements, statements for any stocks, 401ks, that sort of thing. Because if there's income generated by any assets, we do need to count a portion of it towards your total household income. So as I mentioned earlier, if you're interested, you should apply as soon as possible to get the process started. I want to mention too that if you're interested in both a one-bedroom apartment and a two-bedroom apartment, you can indicate that on your application. You don't have to choose one. There's really no downside to choosing both. There is a potential downside if you've only applied to one unit size, and then later on you decide that you are also interested in a two-bedroom, for example, because you would be placed at the bottom of that waiting list. So we'll review your lottery application. We'll contact you if any information appears to be missing, or if we have any questions for you. And if you're found eligible for the lottery, you'll be sent an email with your lottery application number, which will be in the form of a series of numbers. And that's the number that will be drawn in the lottery. So it's just meant to be an anonymous identifier, so your name isn't called during the lottery. It's not a ranking of any sort at this point. It just corresponds with the order in which we received which we approved your lottery application. So if you're the very first person to be approved for the lottery at the Asher, your lottery application number would be A.001. When you receive that email with your lottery application number, you want to make sure that you are reviewing it carefully, because it's also going to have other information that's being confirmed from your application. So it's going to confirm whether or not your household reported being a resident of Ashland, or whether or not you are requesting a mobility accessible apartment. So you want to make sure that that information appears correct. It's also going to confirm which bedroom sizes you applied for. So make sure, again, that just all of that appears correct. If something doesn't look right, just make sure you're emailing SCB Housing so we can change that for you. So you're not placed on the incorrect waiting list, for example. If at any point in the process you're found to be ineligible for the lottery and you have questions, please, you're encouraged to contact us with any questions. So the lottery itself will take place on May 8th at 6 p.m. And it'll be very much in the same format as this. So it'll be a Zoom session, and I will share a screen so you can see the lottery drawing happening. We'll be conducting the lottery using a website called random.org. So that'll allow for instantaneous drawing results. And basically the lottery numbers will be randomized on a screen, and you'll be able to see the results of the drawing, but if you're not able to attend the drawing, the waiting lists that are compiled after the lottery are going to be emailed to every approved household anyway. So you'll get those by that evening of May 8th. During the lottery, every lottery number is going to be drawn. So sometimes you think of lotteries, you think there's 18 units, there's going to be 18 numbers drawn. That's not the case here because the purpose of the lottery is to establish an order of the waiting list. So in general, it's more beneficial if you're called early in the lottery, but it might not be the deciding factor on whether or not you'll be moving forward in the process. And that's because type 1 households, so smaller households, are going to be mixed in with type 2 households. We don't know, as we're doing the drawing, who applied for a 1-bedroom unit, a 2-bedroom unit, who requested to have a disabled accessible unit, and all of that. So you won't know a whole lot during the lottery itself, but soon after it, when you get the results, you will be able to see where your lottery application number is on the waiting list. So after, like I mentioned, the lottery results have to be sorted. So I'll take local preference into consideration, whether or not your household requires a disabled accessible unit. And those waiting lists will be sent to you. You'll be able to take a look at the waiting list and find if your lottery application number is highlighted in green. We'll be emailing you these waiting lists. And if your application number is highlighted, it means that you're one of those top households on the waiting list, and you'll be invited to apply for a lease with the leasing office. So moving on to the next step in the process, you would have about 5 days to connect with the management team to initiate the lease screening process. So just a reminder that SCB Housing, we screen for your lottery and program eligibility, so the affordable housing program, but we don't screen your household for lease eligibility. The management team is going to do that. And again, that is the portion of the screening that might involve credit check, background check, that sort of thing. And be aware that leasing offices usually invite more households to complete their lease screening than there are available units. So for this lottery, if there's 6 2-bedroom units, there's probably going to be more than 6 households invited from the waiting list to complete that lease screening. Management companies usually do that because often the process of leasing units is slowed down by households who don't qualify, or maybe they aren't responding to requests. If you're lease approved, that's the point in the process where if you have a position on the waiting list that is maybe the first position on the waiting list, that's beneficial to you because you'll be able to select and reserve an apartment first. So you'll be able to take a look at all the 1-bedrooms and decide, which characteristics are most important to you. Maybe you want the 1-bedroom affordable unit that's on the top floor, for example. If you are the top person on that waiting list, you would be able to make that decision. And then the second person on the waiting list would have the second choice of the remaining units, and so on. Once you've reserved the affordable apartment, the leasing office will notify us at SCB Housing, and will then coordinate your submission of the income, asset, and tax documentation that will now be required to confirm your program eligibility review. So you have about 10 days to get that information into SCB Housing, and we'll work with you. There's a lot of information that needs to be submitted. Even if you don't provide everything on that first attempt, we'll send you an incomplete notice. We'll be in touch with you, and no worries about that. Once you're leased, you're done with eligibility. Sorry, you're done with income screening until just before your lease renewal date. So if you've moved into the affordable apartment and around this time next year, about 3 months before your lease renewal date, we hope that you want to continue living in the apartment, but beyond that first year. And if you do, you'll just need to recertify your income with the with the leasing office prior to renewing your lease. So we usually just suggest that anybody renting an affordable unit, you have sort of your access to your pay stubs, your bank statements, that sort of thing, so you have it ready for when you have to do your annual renewal with the leasing office. And if your income is increased and is now above the 80% of area median income, that's fine. Households remain eligible for the affordable housing unit as long as their income does not exceed 140% of the current year's AMI, area median income. So to give you an example of what that means, a household of 2 would qualify for this lottery with an income at or below $104,200. That same family can make up to about $145,000 at the time of their recertification in order to still be eligible for the affordable apartment and to continue paying the affordable rent. So there's a little bit of wiggle room there in terms of, if you have a income increase, or if you get a new job, you're able to still remain eligible for the affordable apartment next year. That about covers everything I wanted to get to from the information packet. Again, if you're interested in this opportunity, their online application is right here. And you can find this link on our website as well, so scbhousing.com. And the application deadline, again, is April 23rd, so a little bit less than a month. At 2 p.m., this online application will no longer be active. So you want to make sure you get in that application before 2 p.m. on April 23rd. And if you have any questions after tonight, if you're watching this after the fact and you want to contact us, info@scbhousing.com is the best way to reach us. You can also call us at the 617 number on your screen here. So thank you for watching this, and I hope you have a great night. We look forward to getting your application.